Hello, I'm Mike Morris, the University of Notre Dame, and we serve as the hub for the Urban Poverty and Business Initiative. I want to talk a little bit about the essence of this program, and I'm speaking to all of our partners in all the different cities, including program directors, mentors, student consultants, partners. What I want to convey is the importance with the Urban Poverty and Business Initiative that we're not talking about entrepreneurship as usual. We're not talking about trying to create scalable, growth-oriented ventures. There may be some ventures that grow, but that isn't the norm. So one has to adjust how she or he thinks about and approaches the entrepreneurs that we're working with in order to have any impact. We emphasize entrepreneurship not simply as the starting of a business, but as empowerment and transformation. And those aren't throwaway words. Those are core to the program. We emphasize empowerment in the sense that we're empowering, helping to empower. Empowerment is something people do for themselves, but helping to empower people to create their own jobs, their own futures, their own identities, their own possibilities. We're transforming communities and families and local markets and people. This is such a critical idea because we don't start from where everybody else starts when they try to help entrepreneurs. We start from poverty. And poverty is a totally different, an entirely unique context. We stress the idea that poverty is not a characteristic of a person. It's a characteristic of a situation. But you cannot be successful with your program if you don't intimately appreciate and understand the context. And in this case, the context of disadvantage, the context of poverty. Whether we're talking about somebody who is formerly incarcerated, somebody who is a refugee, somebody who's been in a women's shelter, somebody who's grown up with disadvantage as a function of their race or disability. But the common theme is limited resources. But that isn't what poverty is about. Certainly, it's about not having enough money to buy the things you need. But much more critically, poverty is multidimensional. So a person in poverty is struggling to pay the rent, to pay a medical bill, but much more than that. They live in a world where educational opportunities are more limited. In a world where crime may be much more rampant. They face food scarcity. They face inadequate housing and the potential to be kicked out of their house arbitrarily at any point in time. We're talking about a context where people are frequently single heads of households, where teen pregnancy rates are much higher and high school dropout rates are much higher. We're talking about a situation where one doesn't have dependable transportation. One can't afford the heat bill in the middle of the winter. Where the individual probably doesn't have as healthy a diet as they might, probably doesn't have health insurance. And so frequently is experiencing themselves or within their family chronic health problems. And they're often the primary provider, health provider for a relative or an extended family member. Where the social network that the individual has is much more constrained. And so that network in terms of people that can connect you to people, that can open doors for you, or that can get you access to a resource is much more constrained. A world of separation from many mainstream aspects of society. These elements of poverty are the beginning point of how we teach, of how we mentor, of how we consult. We've translated this multidimensional, this complex mosaic of poverty into 4 critical factors that come into play when trying to start a business. All entrepreneurs face obstacles and difficulties. Entrepreneurship is never an easy journey. But on top of all the normal obstacles and setbacks and unexpected developments, the low-income entrepreneur, the disadvantaged entrepreneur, faces 4 significant issues that have to be taken into account in the way you approach any aspect of your programs. First, they face significant literacy gaps. And I'm not just talking about functional literacy or the ability to read, write, numeracy, but technological literacy, economic literacy, financial literacy, business literacy. So things that many people might seem to many people to be simple challenges, filling out an online form to register a single member LLC, can have one question in them that sets the person back because they don't grasp they don't understand the question, they don't know how to answer the question, so they simply stop. Literacy gaps translate into how they see the numbers, how they see technology and the ways it could transform their business. The second critical factor is a scarcity mindset. This is huge. If you are an entrepreneur and you come from disadvantage, then you come from a world where you may have to make weekly decisions that are trade-offs. Do I pay the rent? Do I pay a medical bill? It's a trade-off. If you live in that kind of trade-off world where I have to make these choices, they're short-term, immediate choices, then you're just trying to get through the week. You're just trying to get through the month. And so that scarcity mindset isn't just a short-term mindset, it's an immediate-term mindset. Think about how silly it is to ask somebody that lives in the immediate term to write a 5-year business plan, to think strategically, to put together projected pro forma financial statements. This short-term mindset, this scarcity mindset, this making trade-offs to get through the week leads to suboptimal decision-making, makes it very difficult to think strategically, to think holistically. Thirdly, these entrepreneurs, given the disadvantage they have experienced, face significant non-business distractions that make it very hard to focus on the business. I mean, if I get mugged coming home from the store, if I don't know how I'm going to feed my kids tonight, if an aunt has just moved in with a chronic health problem and I'm trying to take care of her, if I'm a single mom and one of my kids is sick and I'm working a part-time job while I try to start a business, all these realities of poverty are distractions. And so I've got to rush to the school, or I've got to rush to the hospital, or I've got to, whatever it is, it makes it very hard to focus on the business. And so again, I'm looking at getting through. I develop a more reactive mindset to how I'm approaching opportunities and problems in the business. Finally, these entrepreneurs face significant lack of any kind of safety net. So they're incredibly vulnerable because they don't have access to debt. They certainly don't have access to equity finance, period. Their limited social networks constrain the kinds of people and organizations they can tap into when they're up against the wall. They don't have retained earnings from their business because anything the business generates is going right back into the business. And there isn't much there. And so they operate without a safety net. These four realities of the poverty individual totally define the opportunities they're able to see, totally define the kinds of businesses they start, the amount of time they can spend on the business, the things they avoid because they don't understand them. The upshot is we end up creating a lot more businesses that are based on opportunities that are more constrained and businesses that suffer from what we call the commodity trap. These are labor-intensive businesses where the entrepreneur is doing most of the labor herself. These are businesses that are not well differentiated. It's a cleaning business. It's a transport business. It's a business that makes candles. These undifferentiated businesses, because they're labor intensive and the entrepreneur has very little and there are literacy gaps, don't incorporate technology, can't afford critical equipment that makes it all the more labor intensive, but also means they're not especially efficient. So costs can be relatively high even when they're not paying themselves. And yet they price too low. So with low prices and relatively high costs, margins are squeezed. Capacity is constrained because it's labor intensive and they can't afford equipment. So you end up with low volume, low margin businesses that struggle to get by. If we think about what entrepreneurs start, we have differentiated between what we call survival, lifestyle, managed growth, and aggressive growth ventures. The poor disproportionately start survival and lifestyle businesses. Either businesses, a survival business being one that is hand to mouth. One where the entrepreneur probably works from either from home or from a vehicle or from a cart at a booth, where the business makes enough money to pay this week's bills. Lifestyle businesses are businesses that may have premises, may not, whereas the survival business typically doesn't have employees, may have employees, but they don't seek to grow. They're not trying to expand to 8 locations and 3 new markets. Rather, it's the corner bar or restaurant, it's a hair salon, it's a small dress shop, it's a guy with 2 vans transporting people to doctor's appointments or hauling junk. It's a lawn care business. So these survival and lifestyle kind of businesses need unique help, have to be approached uniquely. And the critical point is we do not denigrate these businesses. We celebrate them. We do not say, well, entrepreneurship is about the high growth, scalable venture. It's about the next Uber. No, we accept these, we meet these entrepreneurs where they are, and we celebrate their ventures. One of the most important aspects of the Urban Poverty and Business Initiative is we are not in the idea-killing business. We're not here to tell you how bad your idea is. Hey, why don't you just drop that? Here's a different idea for something you might start. Rather, we work with the entrepreneur. We take their dream, whatever that dream is, and we try to move it forward. We try to help the entrepreneur see ways it can be adapted. It could be modified. The opportunity horizon could be expanded. But this is such a critical idea. We frequently run into folks who volunteer to help with the program, but they immediately start trashing the entrepreneur's idea. We just don't do that. It's finding whatever profit potential there is in whatever idea. The other key point here is the entrepreneur is starting a venture under conditions of adversity, under disadvantage. And we're trying to walk that journey with that entrepreneur. But if we think about literacy gaps, a scarcity mindset, an inability to focus due to significant non-business distractions, and lack of a safety net, it makes it very difficult to climb the mountain. And it is a mountain they're trying to climb. So we stress walking the journey with the entrepreneur, but we stress that it's a journey of 80 steps. And these 80 steps are taken one at a time. This is a critical idea with the Urban Poverty and Business Initiative because it directly reflects the multidimensional nature of poverty and these 4 huge obstacles the poverty entrepreneur faces. And so it's about activity steps. It's about if we can help you, if we can walk with you, if we can assist you in taking 20 of these steps, you'll take 20 on your own. And so it's critical to incorporate this idea of where they are in the 80 steps and what are the next 10 steps they need to take into your approach. It's critical to recognize that if our students can help an entrepreneur create a website, when she or he sees that website, that inspires and motivates and reinforces them to the point they can do 2 or 3 or 4 more things themselves. So this journey and this accompaniment of these entrepreneurs on the journey, this 80-step process is vital to where we're trying to go with the program and to the success of the program. It also means that we require a different kind of toolkit. We're not using an over-reliance on the business plan. We're not using the lean startup. We're not using even necessarily the business model canvas. We provide a different kind of toolkit that gets to meeting the entrepreneur where they're at. And critically, the 80-step process is about the fact that it isn't about starting a business. Starting a business is easy. Anybody can start a business. The whole focus of UPBI is moving businesses to sustainability. And sustainability means a business that makes enough profit that it can change the economic circumstances of the entrepreneur and his or her family. That's the goal, building sustainable businesses. And by rigorously approaching the 80 steps and doing each step properly, you're building the kind of foundation that can produce sustainability. At the end of the day, it's about the development of the entrepreneur as much or more than it is the development of the business. It's helping these entrepreneurs develop the skill set, the competencies, the sense of self-efficacy, the sense of purpose, seeing themselves as entrepreneurs. I often tell people that's the biggest thing we do with these entrepreneurs is we see them as entrepreneurs so they start to see themselves as entrepreneurs. As I said at the beginning, it's about empowerment and transformation. If you truly enmesh yourself in the context of poverty, in the reality of disadvantage, and how that affects how people think, and how people feel, and how they see the world, and how they see a mentor, or a student consultant, or a trainer. It's then that we can start to have a little bit of effect. Then we can start to be a drop of water in an ocean. But that is what we need to do. I want to finish with a quote from one of our entrepreneurs, which I think speaks to the reality of what we're doing. Shamika said, "Just a year ago, me and my daughter was sleeping in my car in hotels for a month. I knew I had to do something I was never taught, and that was how to live. Thank you for this opportunity. It's such a blessing to me." It's a blessing to us to be able to work with these entrepreneurs. It's a privilege, it's an honor to be able to share their dreams. We can help them realize those dreams. The more we walk in their shoes, the more we understand their journey. So let's turn now to talking to a few of these entrepreneurs to get a better feel for the context that we're talking about. So I'm with Joe Luton. Joe started Important Joe's Coffee. He's been one of the success stories in terms of the program here in South Bend. Joe, welcome.
Thank you.
Could you talk a little bit, Joe, about if I were trying to walk in your shoes and understand the journey that you've been through, what has that journey been like? What are some of the unique challenges that you've experienced?
I'll keep it short and sweet for you. As a young man, I had some behavioral challenges all throughout school. Fortunately, I didn't have to get sedated. However, I did have a lot of educational challenges with being suspended from school as I progressed through high school. I was able to keep up in regards to the classes. However, I wasn't attending class much. I had ADHD. I struggled significantly with my attention span. And so this was something that was kind of just looked at as a behavioral issue. And so this is a challenge that a lot of young minorities deal with in their communities because there's so many systemic challenges and systemic systems that have been put in place, such as that will actually diminish, the accessibility of quality education in our communities. That really stifles our growth because everyone knows there's a correlation between poverty, criminality, and lack of education. And so that was something that kind of hindered me growing up. And then also, you have society, setting these parameters for us. And it's hard when you don't necessarily learn or navigate through life as everyone else.
You say setting parameters. Could you talk a little bit about some of those parameters?
Absolutely. Strictly most, when you're in high school and you're getting ready to graduate, you go to your counselor and they typically set up, your college courses and they focus on, the collegiate trajectory. But for me, anything that was institutional, anything that had like structure just did not work for me or the way that I learned. And so out of high school, I actually ended up getting kicked out of high school my senior year last semester. So I had to get my GED. And so that made for a very tumultuous entry into somewhat adulthood, going into 18, 19 years old. All of my friends were going off to college, and then I was, stuck in South Bend with my friends who were, dying every other weekend, friends who were getting shot, friends who were going to jail, getting locked up, having kids, all of these things. And I kind of, man, I kind of fell. I'm not going to say victim. I made a lot of bad choices early on as a young man, like when I was 18, 19 years old. Extremely ambitious, extremely entrepreneurial. Kind of got in some trouble with the law. Ended up with a felony at the age of like 19 for cultivation of cannabis in Michigan. I was somewhat of a trailblazer within my own right, I would say. And so, unfortunately, I ended up with a felony at a very young age, and so that caused life to be very, very difficult at an early on time for me. So 19, no, you can't work here. No, you can't live here. No, you can't get financial assistance. No, you can't get anything. And so it just really, really, it really pushed me to it back into a lifestyle, that got me there to begin with, And I mean, if we look at the current, the penal system, the judicial system, I mean, they're not created for reformation or restoration or rehabilitation. It's for recidivism. And so that was one of the things that I kind of fell victim to, but due to my own choices.
Joe, talk a little bit about some of the unique challenges you had. Were you really ready to start this coffee business when you started?
Ready? Heavens no. Definitely not ready. Definitely at the time, at the onset of starting my business, I didn't really have a lot of access to some of the information that I was looking for. And so, I struggled heavily with getting access to capital and really kind of understanding what it was that an actual working business model looks like, the things that a bank is looking to actually finance. And so, in urban communities, we oftentimes don't have access to capital. We don't have access to resources, to education, and these things. And so it was very challenging. However, due to my ability to sell, I was able to come through those waters.
So I remember a time a year ago or so where things were a bit strained with your wife because you yourself are working 50, 60 hours a week. You're traveling all over the place. You're going to these different markets.
Yeah.
You got in a car accident. Your car's a wreck.
We've been through 3 cars in 3 years.
And you kind of hit a bottom.
Yeah.
How'd you climb out of that? How did you come back?
There were some days that I dealt with depression, and a lot of that, is partially due to my ADHD. But I just, honestly, I just burnt every bridge. There was no second option. There was no second choice. There was no plan B. I convinced myself before I convinced anyone else. And that's one of the biggest secrets to being successful. Along the way, I really invested heavily into self-development. That's one thing a lot of people don't do. And I read a lot. I listened to Think and Grow Rich, from Napoleon Hill. And that helped me with learning how to actually believe and to manifest what I would say. And so, when life just keeps throwing, all of this crap at you, it's hard to believe, hope deferred makes a heart grow sick. And so that's what you find in our communities is a lot of hopeless people who are just clawing and fighting, to try to get to a place of, honestly, break even. There is no profitability. They're literally just digging themselves out of holes because of lack of education, financial education in the home. I mean, we have all of these very unique challenges.
Thanks, Joe.
Indeed.
I'm with Taylor Lake, the entrepreneur behind Trophy Detailing, the only mobile detailing business in South Bend. Taylor, welcome. Would just like to talk a little bit about your journey and your struggles and starting a business. So when you first started the business, I know you had worked in detailing kind of business and sort of learned from being in that environment. But what were you not ready for when you started the business of your own?
Well, Michael, it was several things I wasn't ready for starting my own business. One of the things that I could really pinpoint is structure. I knew we had talent and we were gaining traction with our clients, but we didn't exactly know how to market this thing. We didn't have a POS system together to accept funds in the correct way. We didn't know how to file taxes or even how to legitimately run the company. It was kind of just going based off of pure talent and just starting a thing. And so we lack structure. And then the next thing I would say is the network. So growing up in my family, I really didn't have someone I could ask these questions to of how do I get a LLC, or how do I find more clients, or things of that nature, because I'm one of the first entrepreneurs in my family. So I never really had that network of people to ask these questions, and also to expose me to different information and resources.
So the network was more limited, and
Yes.
you didn't really have role models who were entrepreneurs as you grew up. What kind of resources did you have when you first started?
Not really any. Besides the internet. I utilized the internet for as long as I possibly could to research these things, but it makes a difference when you actually have someone that understands what you're going through. Maybe some better insight of what strategies to take, and to put you in the rooms and with people that can further you along on your journey.
It's interesting that you emphasize the limited social network. One of the challenges, I would assume, if you're doing car detailing, you want to access not just the neighborhood you grew up in, not
Right.
just your immediate friends and family,
Right.
but the mainstream market, people that own nice cars and
Yeah.
will pay meaningful money to. What were the struggles you have dealt with in trying to go from your immediate market to the mainstream market?
Well, actually, one of my mentors through the program really helped me with that exact problem. I was underpricing my service and I had no clue. That's just from not knowing. They showed me how I was underpricing my service, why my prices should raise, and why they should be a certain thing. They taught me which audience fits my company. Because just like you have a target audience for your clients, those are the people that can afford your service. That's the people that find the most value in your service. And they taught me that. I had no clue. I thought everyone was my client, that if anybody needed their car done, I wanted to do it. But it just doesn't work that way. You have to find who needs your service and target them. And one of the things my mentor did is they did research on which demographic would enjoy my service and really value it. And that probably would have never happened had they not pointed that out. And also with the price change, changing it to where I'm not cutting myself short.
So, as a black woman in a physical business like
Yeah.
car detailing, how have you managed to succeed?
Well, I think playing sports growing up helped a little bit, but actually it was strategy. Coming up with a process, and also my mentors helping me come up with the process. We do the vehicles in an efficient way to where it doesn't matter if you're a woman, you're a man, you're a teenager, you're an old person. Using this process that we've created, anybody could get these things done to the trophy standard. But also I've experienced kind of, I don't want to say backlash, but people who doubt the credibility or liability because it's a male dominated area. And sometimes I have clients that kind of give you a side eye of, is she really capable of doing this service? But with the branding that the branding is, the standards that we have, and then also my personableness with the client, usually we win them over every time with just having excellent service and customer service.
Well, I can attest because I'm a customer, but have there been some moments when you thought you were going to quit?
Yeah. Yes. There's been times in my business where we ran out of funds. There's been time in my business where the work vehicle has broken down and we still have clients. There's been times where we don't have any clients. And that's when you use those methods that, that we've learned throughout the program. And also, whether that's bootstrapping, whether that's using the resources that were provided, whether you need a loan, whether you need a grant, all of those things help when you're going through those dark moments that you probably wouldn't have been exposed to had we not been exposed to the network.
Thanks, Taylor.
No problem.
I'm with Leslinda Wilson, the entrepreneur behind Blossom Cleaning and Organizing. Welcome, Leslinda.
Thank you for having me.
Leslinda, could you talk a little bit about some of the unique struggles that you see people who come from adverse circumstances or disadvantage must deal with when they try to start a business?
I would say just starting it, just going and just starting somehow. No one else in the community is talking about how to start. We don't know how, like, what steps do you take and the proper way, like the legal way. I think that's our biggest struggle is creating a business that's legit, that's registered and following those steps that the government wants you to follow to get it established, and insurance. So we really don't have people in our own community that's willing to share their process and to get started.
We've talked a bit about some of the distractions that one has to deal with while trying to start a business. Mm-hmm. I know you had a drive-by shooting at the place that you used to live. Mm-hmm. You talk a little bit more about the context and the struggles to build a business when you got all this going on around.
Well, I lived on Huey Street, and Huey is known for drive-bys. And I can sit on my porch and watch the drug dealer whistle. Like, it was a whole system. And it was easy to make $50 than to go and do what I do and start a business. So that was kind of like, it was not tempting, but it was tempting to watch people quickly make, $150 for their services with tax-free, no responsibilities afterwards. But I prefer to do stuff legal because I'm not really, I'm scared of going to jail. So that's what keeps me away from that lifestyle. But the temptation is there, but it's better to do things the correct way and remove yourself from an environment that really threatens your life every time you step out of your door.
And you're a mom?
I'm a foster mom and a stepmom.
And a stepmom.
Mm-hmm.
and trying to start and grow. You have started, but you're trying to grow a cleaning business.
Mm-hmm.
That in and of itself is sort of a tough competitive business. There's a lot of people that pop up and they're in the cleaning business and they're not.
Copycats,
So what I find interesting is that you found ways to take a business like cleaning and differentiate it. And a lot of our entrepreneurs price too low.
Mm-hmm.
You've learned to price based on the value you're providing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about how you've learned these things, how you've come to understand how to grow this business?
I would say I'm very fortunate because of my surroundings outside of my home street address. I have some really awesome friends that don't live on my street, and they are willing to share information. And I watch them, and I watch their habits, and I ask them why they do certain things, and they explain it to me. And so then in return, I think about myself and what I'm good at. And I had a really, really good friend named Corey. She took me out for coffee and she was like, you're really good at this, this, and this. How are you going to use it to benefit you and your family? Like, what do you want out of life? And we sat for 5 hours and talked about my dreams and what I'm made of and my purpose. And out of that, Blossom came out. So Blossom is more than just finance. It's a legacy. Hopefully it will be a legacy in giving back into communities. And with her help, I know the value that I'm giving to people that I'm serving, which is giving back their time, having them focus on what their purpose is. And so with that, that's really priceless. And I focus on that, and I focus on relationship. I built relationship with my customers. I know what their struggles are. I know what their pain is. And I try to help heal that pain by removing those chores that my business provides.
And some of these customers are far removed from where you grew up or your immediate network.
Mm-hmm.
How have you managed to penetrate the larger marketplace?
Relationships. I start conversations with strangers. I am really good at that. I love people. If I saw you at McDonald's, I'll probably be like, hey, what's up? And we'll start a conversation, and somehow people trust me, and I'm sincere. Like, I really want to know how you're doing. If I say I like your shirt, I really like your shirt. So relationship building is something that comes easy for me. And through that, I've been blessed with connections.
It seems to me with you and a number of our entrepreneurs, faith plays a role in the business.
Mm-hmm.
Faith plays a role even in decision making.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, when I started this business, I wasn't thinking about starting like a business. And it took a friend that saw something in me that I didn't notice about myself. And she prayed about it. And she came to me. And she knew information that I didn't really share. And we both believe it was from God, from Christ. And she was able to use that information she believed she received from Christ to talk to me, to connect with me, and for me to hear her. And through me hearing her and believing what she had to say, and through my own personal relationship with Christ, it all aligned. And I believe as long as I stay faithful and believe in Him, and I'm honest, and I try to do my best, He provides. every day, every week. He's been providing for us. I don't know. It's just, I have that, it's a mustard seed, and that's all I have. It's not big. It's that small seed that I hold on to that waters everything. Like, it takes care of every little need that I have.
But you have had some low moments. You've had some very tough times.
Yes. But he's carried me through them as long as I stay focused. I might cry. I might be quiet. I might not be all bubbly. But in the midst of that, I'm like, Lord, forgive me for my self-pity. But I know you have a plan. Just carry me through. And he does it every time.
And let's, Linda, what are some of your biggest fears?
Failing, not reaching to the destination.
What is the destination?
Well, my hopes is that my employees will in turn have their own franchise of my business and provide a better quality of life for their family. And it just continues that way. I'm not looking to have staff to work under me. I'm looking for having staff to work with me and to build a circle of security financially, physically. That's my goal. And with me learning, like taking classes like yours, reading several books and listening to podcasts, with that education and with my relationships, learning all of that, hopefully I'll be able to take that information and go somewhere like in Haiti and teach that to people that look exactly like me, and then pass that on, and then just keep multiplying that.
So this is what drives you.
Yes. Because I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be here. I was born in Haiti. My dad's Haitian, my mom Dominican. My dad figured out a way to bring me. Out of 3 kids, he chose me. And there was some trauma in there, but he chose me. And I feel like I've lost a part of my childhood. I've lost my mom. I didn't get to know who my mom is. And I got to come to America. And it was a gift and a curse, but it was a gift. But there's millions of girls in Haiti that look like me, and they want that gift. And I want to tell them, they can have that gift. They don't have to leave that space to have that gift. And so that's my goal.
Well, thank you, Leslie.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for having me. Thank you for what you're doing, teaching us the core. You teach us not the fluffiness. A lot of programs, they add fluffiness and how to feel good. You just add, okay, these are the steps. These are what you need to do. Get these steps done. Stay focused. What's your purpose for your business? You don't use the word purpose, but that's how I translate it. What's the purpose? What's the focus? And just do it. Go after it every single day. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, there's one thing I'm convinced of. It is that you are supposed